Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Ozgur, and I am here with Erin Taylor, the co-founder and creator of Revolutionizing Parenthood. And I am just so excited that everyone is here, that we're coming together to learn about all kinds of different tips, strategies, resources on how to bring forth our best selves in our roles as parents, and so we can do the same thing for our children. So Erin, thank you so much for being here and creating not only the space right now for this conversation, but in general for all of us to come together to truly revolutionize parenthood.
It is a real pleasure and an honor to have this conversation with you today, Jennifer, and to birth this incredible event into the world for parents and families.
I love the word birth, and I'm sure we'll discuss that a little bit more as we go on. Before we get too much into our great conversation that I know we're going to have, because I've been getting to know you for over 6 months since we first met, and I am truly honored to be a part of this too. So thank you for allowing me to um, put in my own passions within this outlet that you've created. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and why this conference is so important to you, and how you got the inspiration to birth this event?
I have had this vision of having a conference for a few years, maybe four years or so. And I guess I should go back a little bit and explain that I am a parent coach, and I also have a professional community for other parent experts. And prior to that, I spent 20 years working as a family therapist with families of all kinds, foster, biological, and adoptive families. And I pivoted about 7 or 8 years ago and began coaching, which I really, really, really love. And so sometimes I often coach parents, sometimes I coach kids, sometimes I coach coaches to help them with their businesses. And so when I conceived of the idea for a professional community to help other people who were helping families, one of the things that I had in my vision was an in-person conference. Wouldn't it be great if we gathered all these parent professionals together in one space? Because my community is global. I have coaches and therapists and mindfulness teachers and social workers on all the continents except, I believe, South America and Antarctica right now. So all the other continents have members of my community. So it's this really big global group of amazing professionals. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to bring us all together and to create this extraordinary in-person event where each person could bring their unique area of expertise and their passion to this gathering of parents and really support them and share their wisdom and their knowledge with the parents. So I had that vision for probably 4 years or so, but I don't have enough, let's say, event planning experience. In my background, I have a little, but not enough to make me to that it would have made me feel ready and competent and prepared to pull off such an extraordinary event. So about 2 years ago, yeah, it would be 2 years right now. It would be 2 years next month. I was a speaker at a women's retreat, and at lunch on Saturday, I sat next to this woman and we got to talking, and she's a mom and I'm a mom, and she was an attendee at this retreat, and we were talking about our shared love of Dr. Shafali, who's a dear friend of mine and also was supposed to be the keynote speaker at our in-person event. And so Ashley Albrecht is her name, she's my co-creator. She said, I've always wanted to do some kind of a parenting event where I could bring Dr. Shafali to the Philadelphia area. But I never knew how to do it because I'm not a coach. I don't have the content. I never knew what to do. And I said, well, what is it that you do? And she said, well, I own my own event planning business. And it was so absolutely perfect. And we said, oh my goodness, we have to talk. This has to happen. And so we had a conversation that would have been probably in the early summer of 2018. And we knew that this was something we wanted to create, but I wasn't quite ready to grab a hold of it and say, yes, let's do it. So I said, can we put this on the shelf for a few months and just come back to it and revisit the conversation? So as 2019 rolled around, a new year, new start, time to take on some new projects, I said, I feel ready. So I reached out to Ashley in January and I said, let's revisit that conversation. So we did, and we decided that we were both ready to dive in, and we began planning this in February of 2018. And it was supposed to happen as an in-person event in the Philadelphia area on April 25th, which is when this interview is going to be live.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it came into existence.
So that it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. We have had to pivot a lot, shift a lot. And I kind of find it right now, the way you were talking and I was listening to you, so ironic that you've been wanting this for 4 years and probably even longer within your subconscious, wanting to do this. Because there was a reason why you had shifted between being a therapist to coaching and coaching parents. And I'd love to maybe talk about that more um, later on. But you realized that you knew what you didn't know, and you respected that knowledge of what it takes to create an event. So once the universe is aligned and you found Ashley, then you were like, okay, I think we can do this now. You filled in some of the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone now doesn't even know what they don't know about the current situation with social distancing, leveraging technology, how to take an in-person event, putting it online. We are creating something that is truly innovative, born out of necessity. What are your thoughts about this dramatic pivot and how it's creating even more opportunity than we had ever imagined? Can you speak to that? Because we were talking about that before, and I want everyone to really appreciate what we have created.
Sure. Well, the first thing I think about when you say that to me is how much I have my dad's DNA in my system, and how strong of an influence he was in my life. I had a wonderful upbringing with both of my parents, which is kind of what led me to commit to the work that I do in my life. But my dad was always the kind of person who always, like, his base message always was, we'll find a way. It will work out. We'll make it work out. We'll fix it. We'll figure it out. No matter what emotional drama I was, dealing with or whining about as a child or a teenager, he always came to me and said, we'll figure it out. It'll work out. How can I help? What needs to be done? Always. So when we were coming up on a couple of months, we were about, I guess, 8 to 10 weeks out from the event, so probably early February. I remember reading a story on January 3rd about this strange pneumonia type of sickness that some people in China were getting, and it all seemed to be linked to this wet market that they had been to. And January 3rd, I read that, I remember, for whatever reason. And then I took my daughter uh, to the Minute Clinic to get tested for the flu on January 18th. And she did test positive for the flu. So I know for a fact that she actually did have the flu. And then within 12 hours, my son also had it. So the doctors put all of us on Tamiflu, and we were able to contain the flu just to the two of them, and the rest of us in the house didn't get it. But anyway, when we were sitting in that, uh, this is a very strange thing. When we were sitting in the Minute Clinic waiting for her turn, there was a box of masks on the desk at the check-in. And I remember sitting there looking at the masks as we're waiting, and the thought popped into my head, I wonder if I should just take one home for each of us. I had
Mm.
an intuitive feeling that this virus was not going to stay in China. I can't explain why, but I had a feeling. And I ultimately decided not to take any masks home because I thought, well, if it gets to a level where we have to wear masks, hopefully I'll be able to find them then. And these masks are here to help the people who come in who are sick now. So I don't want to take the masks now for a purpose that may or may not happen. I need to leave them here. So I didn't take it. But as early as January 18th, I had some inklings that this was going to be bigger than it appeared. And then in early February, I was talking with one of our speakers for the conference who was planning to come in person, and he lives in Singapore. And he said to me, what are the odds that you think this conference is actually going to happen? Because he was going to have to arrange flights and hotel rooms, to come from the other side of the world.
Mm.
And he said, well, do you think that you're going to have to cancel? And I said, cancel? At that point, it was still an Asian problem, or, an explosion in Asia, and it hadn't started spreading around the world. And I thought, huh, no, that's 2 months away. And I knew that we were kind of in this weird kind of time frame. And I thought, well, maybe the virus will either explode and be done by April 25th, or it won't quite have reached us by April 25th. And we can still squeeze the conference in that little window. But given that my community is global, we had people flying in from Canada, California, Europe, Central America. We had people flying in from all over. So as this started creeping around the world in early February, very quickly after that conversation with him, I started seeing the writing on the wall, and oh, the dread. What are we going to do? He told me in that conversation that some big tech gathering that was supposed to happen in Spain that usually gets 100,000 people had already been canceled. And I thought, oh, that's not good. That's not a good omen for us. And so, I kind of had the thought in my mind since early February that we were going to have to pay very close attention to what was happening. And it quickly, as you know, blew up. And Ashley and I had many, many, many conversations over, I guess, a period of 4 or 5 weeks, constantly shifting and pivoting and throwing out ideas. And, well, we can't do this. What about this? Oh, that's not going to work. What about this other thing? And what about this? And what about this? And we were shifting back and forth. And I felt like a basketball player, how a basketball player is constantly pivoting and doing lateral moves and everything and weaving and dodging the competition. That's what I felt like for those weeks. And we spent so much time on the phone just throwing out ideas and poring obsessively over the news developments because we needed to know, like, how bad is this getting? Is there any possible window of opportunity to make this event happen? And it became obvious there was no possible way. But we certainly didn't want to just cancel it or put it off for a year, because what we'd been working on since a year ago, February, I knew was so valuable and such good information, because the people in my community are incredible, incredible people, as you know, because you're in it too. And I knew that this had to happen one way or another. No matter what we had to do, it had to happen. And so we initially decided to pivot and make it fully, well, at first we were going to make it, the breakout sessions were going to be pre-recorded, but then we were all, as you know, trying to gather at a studio location for the morning of April 25th so that we could do some live interacting with the audience. And then that, once we kind of settled on that idea, then it became quickly obvious that might not actually be an option, because by the time April 25th is here, we might not be allowed in the same room for our health and safety. So then once we kind of solidified an idea there, then we had to pivot again and say, okay, none of this can happen. We can't bank on the fact that we can gather in person. So that has to be off the table. So then we were thinking, we'll try to figure out, we worked with a couple of companies to try to figure out if we could do like live webinars throughout the whole day. And the expense of trying to do all those live webinars was 4 times what we would have spent on the conference itself. So that was certainly not an option. And then ultimately we decided that what we really felt called to do was to offer this event as a fully digital event and offer it for free, because we really felt like at this time of this pandemic, this global experience, this unprecedented event that none of us have ever experienced ever in our lifetimes, that what parents really needed in this time is support and guidance and ideas to get through being at home with their kids, being afraid of the virus, being uncertain about the future, stressed about jobs, stressed about how their children are managing their education remotely, all of it. They needed support. And so we ultimately landed on making the event fully pre-recorded, digital, and free for parents everywhere. That's what really right felt right in our hearts. And so by doing that, we refunded all the attendees who had purchased tickets to come and join us. We said, you know what, you need this money right now more than we do, so take it back. Please enjoy our conference digitally for free. And then when we plan our in-person conference, then we hope that you'll be able to join us at that point. So those people were very delighted with the turn of events and very appreciative that we refunded their tickets. And having it go digital and free really opened it up to many more people, because I had people who said, I would love to come, but I can't travel that far. I have little kids at home. My spouse works, or whatever it is. I can't afford to travel, whatever it was. They couldn't come even though they wanted to. Now there's no barrier to anyone. All they need to do is click the registration link, put their name and email address in, and they get to experience this incredible conference. And it really is incredible, because as you know, I've been spending the last few weeks editing and uploading the workshops, and they are so good. Parents are going to love what we've put together. I'm so excited to share it.
Thank you. The to hear your journey of how it brought us to this moment is empowering, inspiring. Um, the fact that now you said that there's no barriers to access this. People don't have to travel. They don't have to pay anything. So it's truly democratic for everyone to be able to participate in this event. The flexibility of being able to watch it when you are centered and are able to receive it emotionally, intellectually. How long is this going to be available for?
Forever.
Ah, that's fantastic. I love that.
And I
Um,
think that's going to be really valuable to parents, because we are covering so many topics with our speakers. So I'm going to be talking about parenting an anxious child. We have experts talking about toddlers all the way up through teenagers, special needs, kids with sensory needs or sensory issues, teenagers, I already said that, parenting collaboratively, all kinds of different topics. And so a parent might now have a toddler and they're going to find useful information now in their journey now. But then in a few years, their child is going to be 10, 12, getting into moving towards teenagehood, and they're going to need something different then. So they will always have access to this to revisit if a new challenge or a new chapter of their parenting and their child's childhood comes up. They're going to have this to look back on and get the support they need when they need it.
And having done some of those interviews with some of the speakers, what I found so amazing is the openness and courage and willingness to share personal journeys. And I was saying to the one person, what you had just said is probably on a bumper sticker somewhere. And you see it, and it almost seems like a cliche. Oh yeah, sure, sure. But when you hear it framed in a context of someone's real life experience, and then it all leads up to that one particular sentence, the power and magnitude of what they said, then you get that gravitas and you get that transformational shift. And sometimes you don't get that the first time. Sometimes you may not quite understand it or process it, and like you said, to rewatch. And so it's not like you can get all of your transformation and inspiration downloaded one time.
No.
You need it multiple times. So I love that, whereas people are listening, and there are worksheets and one sheets where people can take things away. They get it the first time, and then when they reflect and connect and make these connections, they can revisit where they had a light bulb moment and then say, you know what, I remember how that felt when I first listened to it. I want to experience that again now. And I love that. um, your dad, when you said, like, we'll find a way, and what I wrote down was, you have to be aware in order to find something. If you have to have a consciousness about yourself that I want a certain thing, I'm going to be looking for it so I can find it, and I have to be aware when it appears.
Mm-hmm.
So that theme of conscious parenting, Dr. Shafali's work, and how it's been weaved in through the DNA of this conference as well. It's called Revolutionizing Parenthood. So taking consciousness and the concept of revolutionizing parenthood, what does that mean to you? What theme and lens would you like to create for us now as we're watching this first before we get into the content? Can you speak to us a little bit about the concept of the conscious parenting and revolutionizing parenthood? Prepare us for the journey we're going to experience.
Well, I think I'll take you back to when I first met Dr. Shafali. I was in my coaching certification program for becoming a parent coach, and it was a very intensive year-long program. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology that I had to spend 2 years full-time to get, and this certification program was as hard as that one. So it was a very intense program that I went through. And I had been listening to a podcast called Zen Parenting Radio with Todd and Kathy Adams for a couple of years prior to that time. And I remember them occasionally talking about Dr. Shafali. And I didn't know who she was at that point. That was probably 2011, maybe. And they had her on the show, and I loved her interview. And they kept talking about the conscious parent, the conscious parent. And at some point early in my year-long certification program. I just woke up one day, and this is kind of how I live life anyway. I woke up and I said, I have to read The Conscious Parent. I have to read it right now. And I drove to Barnes and Noble and I bought the book off the shelf and I dove into it. And my mind was just blown wide open at the concepts that she shares in that book. And I remember going to each of my online classes for my certification program, telling my classmates, you have to read this book. It's blowing my mind. Like, you have to read it. You don't understand. You won't understand until you read it, but you have to read it. It's profound. And so a year later, I saw that Dr. Shafali was posting that she was speaking at a PTA fundraiser near where she lives in New York. And I immediately emailed the president of the PTA and said, I don't live in New York, but can I come to the event? Can I buy a ticket? And she said, of course, it's a fundraiser. So that was terrific. So I immediately bought my ticket, and it was about a month later. So a couple days prior to the event, Dr. Shafali posted again, just one more time, reminding everybody, hey, I'll be talking at this PTA fundraiser on this date. Click here if you want to join us. And so I commented below and I said, any parent in the tri-state area should come to this event. It will blow your mind. It'll be amazing. And so she immediately private messaged me on Facebook. So imagine my surprise when I go to my messages and there's one from Dr. Shafali. I felt like I was starstruck. Oh my gosh, why is she messaging me? And she basically just said, thank you for coming to thank you that you're coming to the event, and make sure you stop by afterwards and introduce yourself. So that's all the welcoming that I needed. So after the event was over, I went up and I talked to her and I said, your work is so profound. There it it can literally change the world. And I would love to share some ideas that I have with you. And she said, great, let's talk. So we scheduled a time to talk on the phone, which I was so starstruck I couldn't even barely stand it. I was so nervous. And during that conversation, I said to her, your message is true. It really is the way. And every parent in the world needs to hear this message. And I promise you that until I take my last breath, I will not stop trying to get this to every parent on this planet. And that's the promise that I made to her in 2014. And so then I created this community of parent professionals. And the one thing that all of us share in common is an appreciation, respect, and belief in Dr. Shafali's teachings. We come from all walks of life, all continents around the globe, different genders, different cultures, nationalities, everything. But we all share that one common thread. And so every time they do a workshop, in our group, we'll share when we're doing workshops and presentations and whatever else we're doing. And every time I know that they're getting in front of a group of parents and they're sharing this message, it's kind of a full circle moment.
I'm wondering if you noticed my face shifting a little bit. I was trying to hold back the tears when you
Oh,
were, because oh darn, if the floodgates start, I'm just being my true authentic self.
that's right.
Um, what you experienced with Dr. Shafali, where you felt so deeply passionate about something and it was like so aligned with your purpose and your core values, and you reached out and, you know, I don't want to say, stalked her, but you're just like, I have to
Yeah,
meet her, right? Of course.
of course.
That has been what I have been doing for the past couple of years. And we talked about this back in September, October. After being an educator for 20 years am being so passionate about proactive mental health strategies and being entrenched in the public education system, where I feel that every child, it's their human right to flourish and live their deepest, discover their purpose, live their purpose. And how can we democratically give that to every single student? And that's how I feel, that I'm opening up that opportunity for myself, where I've been doing the same thing, where in deepening my certifications and going to the University of Pennsylvania and seeing speakers on equity and mindfulness. And I was that person where during lunch, I go up to them as they're just ready to take a bite of their sandwich and say, I wrote this children's book. It's all about kissing and oxytocin, and I'm geeking out on all this neuroscience, and I want to be like you. You're speaking to, I feel like we're a part of the same tribe, and what can I do? And, I was invited to go to Baltimore and get trained in trauma responsive teaching in the classroom and brain-based engagement techniques. And then I got certified in appreciative inquiry, and I was telling you about all of that. Um, One thing leading to the next, and getting involved with you in this project, and now finding a way to leverage what's going on in the world today globally with this social distancing, and being able to step into, I'm talking about myself now for a little bit, but like my vision and um, innovative strategies to be able to align all these things to create space for parents and teachers and organizational systems, educational systems to come together and envision where we can take our approaches to the next level so students can flourish and thrive. Um, it's just so humbling and awe-inspiring to see the universe align. And it's, rather than saying I want this, I want this, it's as soon as you ask, how can I do this, and you are looking for the answer, and then you find the answer because you're aware and connected. Whew, it's just I just wanted to connect and reflect that it's just, I feel that we're at a moment of massive transformation.
We definitely are. There's no doubt about it. And I really feel like I feel like humanity has an opportunity. We've globally hit the pause button everywhere around the world on life as we knew it, every level of life as we knew it. Many people who worked are now home. Many of them have lost their jobs. Many of them are now working remotely. Many of them still have to go and work on the front lines, from healthcare to grocery stores to supply chains, to make sure that we all have food. Bless them all. Life as we knew it no longer exists. We're in this, I like to call it like this suspended animation kind of a thing, like a weird dreamlike state. In some cases, it slips into the nightmare category, but we're like in this weird suspended animation. And we have, as a species, we have a tremendous opportunity to finally evolve to a higher level as a species, as a humanity. And I have worked really hard to avoid saying getting back to normal or when we get back to normal, because I don't want to go back to normal. I don't want to go backwards to where we were. I want to go forwards to this new, better normal. So I've been very careful to kind of say when we get up and running, when we can go back to school, when we can go back out of our houses. Very careful not to say back to what it was, because we were not, as a species, we weren't being very good. people. We weren't treating the earth well. We weren't treating each other well. We weren't treating ourselves well. We were not taking care of our bodies. We were not taking care of each other. We weren't taking care of the vulnerable among us. There were people and organizations and pockets who were doing better. But as a collective species, we were failing miserably. And now we have an opportunity to rise above all that and see a new way forward. And every day I wake up in this pandemic. We're right now in week 4 of being at home. Every day I wake up and I say, please, 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 please let us not go back to normal. Please let us go forward to something better. Please let every human being take this opportunity to decide what they want their life to look like. And I know that that virus is raging on around us. So many people have been affected on so many levels, and some more severely than others, with job loss, with the loss of a loved one, with their own health, all these different things. There's horror going on in the world right now. But we each can do our own individual piece to contribute to a better world. And I wish that, and I hope that, and I envision that every day with every fiber of my being.
I I think that's I'm so grateful that later on we're going to switch that over to that anxiety piece. Um, it is extremely stressful. There is a lot of anxiety, and what that does is it creates the opportunity for us to acknowledge that, shift it, and discover our strengths, our resilience. So it's not, oh, I'm not anxious, everything's fine, we're not going to focus on that. It's despite my feelings of uncertainty, how might I use that as fuel to discover my best self, to bring out my best self? And I'm realizing as I'm hearing the revolutionizing parenthood, it's as if, and I'm very careful. I don't like to use the word crisis. It's a situation, it's changing times, it's uncertainty, but realistically, life is uncertain. And this is just a huge reminder of that these times are helping to create that revolution that you have been wanting. So in a very appreciative inquiry type of style, I'm just going to ask you now, and I wasn't planning on doing this, but if you could think, you were almost speaking out loud like a visualization or a mantra, affirmations, please may we have this, please may we have this. So I'm going to ask you right now, if you could just think for a moment about all the potential strengths that humanity has and everything that you're trying to awaken in people through this conference. And you wave a magic wand and you're able to see a couple of months into the future, a couple of years into the future. And people have been connecting with this vibrant, rich, powerful content. What changes do you see being made in parents, in families, in society as a result of what you've birthed? Just take a moment and think of that and share with us what you see people saying, being able to do, that is your wish for this conference.
I see parents taking a moment to collect their thoughts, to center themselves before they interact with their child. I see parents understanding how valuable that is and how important that is. When we're in a high stress situation, we become less mindful if we allow the stress to take charge of us. And when we're less mindful, we become more reactive. Our higher level thinking is kind of in sleep mode, and we're just reacting on that base instinctual level, the fight or flight. We're edgy, we're on guard every minute. And so when we have an interaction with our child that is triggering, or they do something that we don't like or we don't agree with, or we wanted it to be a different way, when we're in that high stress fight or flight space or state, then we're just reacting, we're yelling, we're punishing, we're threatening, doing whatever else we're doing. And my vision is that people will take this combination of this forced pause button that we all have to live through right now. We are all on pause, and in some way or another, or many ways. So we're experiencing the pause right now. So between what we're being forced to experience and what we're teaching in this conference, my vision is that we will come out of this tunnel of darkness that we're in with this pandemic. And the light at the end of this tunnel will be one that is a kinder world, a more gentle world, a more compassionate world. And the only way the world will look like that is if we, on our individual level, are like that. So what I envision parents doing is remembering to hit that pause button before they react to their child. Their child, talks back to them or has a temper tantrum or spills milk all over the floor. Before they freak out about it and just instantly react, that they take a moment, they remember the value and the power of that pause. And when they can do that and bring themselves back to calmness, and they kind of bring their higher level mind back online, and it accesses compassion, and it accesses creativity, a creative channel that we all have, and it allows us to connect with our intuition that always knows how to guide us. It always knows the right way forward. It knows more than we do, far more than we do. And so when we take that pause and we bring our higher level thinking back online, and we have that creative channel open, and we have the channel, like I think of creativity up here, and we have that intuitive connection to our inner compass. When we have those connection to those two things, it opens up a whole different menu of responses that we can offer to our child that we would never think of if we're in that fight or flight, high stress, lower mammalian brain. And so rather than yelling or punishing or threatening, we might take a deep breath, open those two channels up. And instead of reacting to what our child just did, we might respond instead. And we might say, wow, you seem really upset right now. What's going on? How can I help you? Instead of, don't you dare talk like me. You go to your room right now. You're punished for the rest of your life, right? That's what is a common reaction for parents. I know I've done it too. But when I'm in a more mindful state where I've cared for myself better, and I'm hitting that pause button, I'm practicing and I'm doing a better job of it, then I don't flip out like that. And instead of focusing on the behavior that I see that may be undesirable, I go underneath of it. I can see underneath of it. I might not know instantly what's going on, but I instantly know there's something that's causing that child to display this undesirable behavior. And I'm not focused on trying to squash the behavior. I'm focused on trying to understand why it's showing up in the first place and how I can help them. And it goes back to how my dad raised me. He always said, how can I help you? When I was crying my eyes out as an emotional teenager, he would come into my room and he would say, how can I help? And when I was faced with a challenge or a problem that seemed unworkable, he would say, we'll figure it out. How can I help you? And that was his compassionate, loving approach every time. Like he never, in my entire life, he never had a different response. He never
Mm.
yelled at me. He never threatened me, never once. Like, I don't even know how that's possible. But he was so in the space of, I see you're struggling and I want to help you. And that's what my vision is for the future, for humanity, for parents. If we can, the generation of parents that exists now, if we can collectively embrace and live in that space, we will completely shift the world, because our children will grow up with a different experience of life, and then they will become adults and they will have an experience that's much like I described with my childhood. Even if it wasn't like that until this moment, it's never too late to change. And so if we can shift now and create a kinder, more gentler way of parenting, then we're creating a kinder, more gentle world. So that is the vision that I have.
And what a beautiful vision. And I think everyone who is part of this conference shares that collective vision. I think the people who are coming to this conference and attending it, participating in it, receiving the information, um, feel the same way. And it will be the ripple effect, and it will be leading through example. And my wish too is when people who are maybe not yet on board or have not been exposed to it or are not, for whatever reason, weren't able to be receptive to the message, when they see the difference, it will become very appealing. Like, wow, how do you do that? Well, here's how. And you may want to go to this website because we have all the resources. And, I was saying to some people on some other um, interviews that I was having, conversations I was having with people, I kind of view these times almost like money. Whereas, a good person with money can do really, really good things. And a bad person with money has the availability and wherewithal to do like some really, really bad things. So when right now, life is very intense. It's extreme. And the people who have learned the tools or who are using the tools to drop in and center themselves, I think now are living in a position of wonder and awe and curiosity of, where is this going to take us? With a smile. Like,
Yes.
what's going to happen to us? Like,
Yes.
I'm really looking forward, with also and also being deeply respectful of that some of the negativity that's been going on is helping to birth that process. Whereas some people right now who lack those tools are really suffering right now.
Really, really suffering.
And to even say, like, through compassion, that, that's why they're having this anxiety. That's why I'm seeing maybe some white knuckling to some old beliefs, because that's all that they know. And they're like, I need to keep this right now. And, my wish is that the universe finds a way to create a conduit, a way for people to open up that toolbox that you're working so hard to upload these videos and put them online. Word gets out, it expands, and it reaches a lot of people, and I know it will. So I want to thank you for having that vision, for realizing that there will be a way. I think you found the way.
I think we did. I think we really did. And I'm really excited for parents to keep watching the videos and to dive in and to really take this opportunity to transform. And the thing I want to tell parents is that kids are resilient and they're very forgiving. So whatever you did or did not do up until now, it's all okay. I have spoken to grown adults whose parents are elderly, and they said to me, if my parent would call me today Like they had a difficult, challenging childhood. If my parent called me today at age 80 and said, you know what, I realized that there was a better way I could have parented you, but I didn't understand it back then. I didn't know about it, and I'm really sorry, and I wish it could have been different. That would change their life, even as a grown adult. So I've had parents in workshops say to me, so worried. My child is 5. I'm just learning this. Is it too late? And I say, absolutely not. And I tell the story of those middle-aged adults that I've spoken to. It's never too late. And kids will respond dramatically. If you make one little tiny baby step of a shift, an improvement, a more calm way of approaching your child, seeing them a little differently, pausing before you say anything, taking a deep breath, choosing to bite your tongue, all these little things, you take one little baby step and your child will respond accordingly, not react, respond accordingly. Kids are resilient and they're going to adapt to the world around them. And so every baby step you take to raise your level as a parent, you're going to get feedback from your child that's going to encourage you to keep going. Like you were saying, like, ooh, wow, I just didn't yell back at them like I normally do. And their reaction is different. And now we're not embroiled in a fight like we usually are. Every little step you take is going to pay dividends you can't even imagine. So all of these workshops that we've created, all these different topics that we're talking about, and all the people, all the experts have put their topic through the lens of living through this pandemic. Now is the time to watch these videos. All of these different things that these experts have to share with you will help you to profoundly change your experience as a parent, and as a result it will rewrite your children's childhood.
And I hear too in a lot of the workshops about self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Connecting with this content is self-care. I
Yes.
deserve this for myself to feel empowered as a parent, to feel confident, to know that I have these tools, but also realizing giving myself the gift of permission to forgive myself for anything that I might have done or failed to do. Um, what I'm learning too is transparency is extremely um, important and can just make things shift to just say, you know what, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still learning. Or, you know what, I've been realizing as our family, I'd like to be a part of creating our family vision to take it to the next level. And I realize I have some work to do on myself. And that's what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of weeks. And you know, you might notice me trying some different things, and I want to know how that felt for you. And to really be open and say, to be, metacognitive and say, you know, I, I want to talk about how I parent with you and how am I doing? And I'd love to have a open conversation with you. And the whole concept of mindfulness, I wanted to uh, just make this point that I was realizing is, some people might think that mindfulness is fluffy or very just light, or the absence of boundaries or lack of discipline, when really it's anything but fluffy. You said that when you were dropping into Dr. Shafali's work, this is rigorous. It is based in neuroscience. And what I find fascinating is we are now finding ways through MRIs and computer imaging of the brain to prove what many cultures have known for thousands of years. And it's coming full circle.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people who may not, may be concerned that maybe connecting with this type of content may um, be incongruous with their personal values or faiths, um, the brain, it's scientifically proven, um, why these strategies are so valuable, why they work. Um, there's been, thousands of case studies that are citing the results. And to be able to say with your own intention, I am doing this because of I want to live my greatest purpose with myself and my family, and to connect with your own personal spiritual values, and using this as a way to actually connect deeper with your family in that way. I don't know if I'm making myself clear with that, but it is very flexible and applicable for everyone, and there it comes at so many different ways that I think everyone, if they're mindful of how they might be able to use these tools to support their own family values, I guess is where I'm getting at, that I feel that it's it's something that everyone can take away with and integrate into their current practices.
Yes. Well, I agree with all of that you just said. And I think going back to what you initially said, if a parent says to a child, I'm going to be taking some time to learn some new things, I have an idea of how I want to parent you in a better way, and I'm going to be trying different things, and I love your feedback. What a beautiful gift, a priceless gift that a parent can give to a child, to let them know, I care about you and being your parent so much that I'm committing to doing this work, and I want to involve you in the process, and I want to know what you think about it. That's a priceless gift to give to a child. It's just a beautiful gift. And so I really hope that parents will jump on your idea and do that. And I also wanted to make sure, for anybody who's listening who didn't already know about this, that we have a Facebook group, a Revolutionizing Parenthood Facebook group for all of the people who will be viewing these workshops, and all of the speakers will be also in the group. We're going to be doing Facebook Lives the week after April 25th. And then we'll do it periodically after that as well. But we're going to have the speakers in there going live in the group, and you can ask them questions about their workshop or their area of expertise, or you can share a situation that you had and get their insights into how to deal with it. We're trying to make this as interactive as we can, given that the material is pre-recorded, but we'll get some live human interaction once they get to see these videos on April 25th.
So that reminds me, before we wrap it up, more ways people can stay connected, can reach out to you. You said that you have a community as well. So if you can just give us some of those ways that people can continue to develop their practice, um, what resources, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, if the listener is a coach or a therapist, mindfulness teacher, social worker, and they would like to get more information about maybe joining our tribe, they can go to tribe.revolutionizing.life.com, because Revolutionizing Life is actually the parent company that I created, and Revolutionizing Parenthood, the event, is one of the things that Revolutionizing Life does, because I have big, broad visions about what I want to do in the world and what I want to help others to do. So tribe.revolutionizing.life.com is the website to visit to find out about joining us. And then as a parent, if you want to connect with me, I have my own website, and that would be Erin-Taylor.com, so ERIN-TAYLOR.com. And on there you can see my coach information about my coaching and my online courses and the podcast that I do that has almost 500 episodes and all the other stuff, and the book that I wrote. So lots of resources on my website.
Wonderful. The book title?
Connection and Kindness, the Key to Changing the World Through Parenting.
Sounds wonderful. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
So, anything else, parting words you'd like to leave?
I'd like to just encourage parents to honor yourself, take care of yourself. Self-care is not selfish, it's selfless. When your bucket is full, you have much more to give to your children. And every little baby step you take forward is going to be deeply appreciated by your child, and it's going to contribute to my vision of creating a better, kinder, more compassionate world for all of us.
Well, thank you so much. I truly enjoyed every second of our conversation. We laughed, we cried a little bit. I cried a little bit. Um, and again, I just want to thank you for this selfless gift of yourself, of the time it took. And I can't wait to see how this all unfolds. So, everyone, thank you for listening and enjoy the journey of experiencing all of this wonderful content that Erin and Ashley have put together. Thanks a
Thank,
lot.
thank you, Jennifer. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.